I want to introduce you to Prophet Stephen Powell, and and I'm just going to share the screen with him, and going to let him speak. This is on the love and the severity of God, and he's a wonderful prophet. I encourage you to follow his channel.
Okay, so I think here's how I want to close this, okay? This is one of my main concerns for the year 2020. My main concern is that the spirit of Jezebel has risen up and has flexed her muscles and has grown so powerful in America and in the American church that people literally don't know the difference between right and wrong anymore. So many people have a seared conscience, and they can no longer feel as God feels. They can no longer see as God sees. They can no longer hear as God hears. You know, wickedness is being called good, and good is being called wickedness. And that's my major concern with Ruth Ginsburg. You know, we've had the message of God's love so oversaturated, you know, the American church and America in the airwaves. I mean, every major megachurch talks about the love of God constantly. But the message of God's love is not complete without the message of God's hate. We cannot be people that just talk about the kindness of God. We've got to be people that talk about the severity of God as well. If we only talk about the love of God from our perspective, then we do not prepare the people for a severe God that will severely judge sin, that will severely judge nations, that will severely judge people that harm little ones, that harm children, you know, and that's on us. You know, just like it says in Ezekiel 33, if we see the sword hanging over the land and we do not sound the alarm, the blood will be on our heads, it'll be on our hands. And I feel the American church has a lot of blood on their hands. I feel the American church is responsible for what's happening to this nation right now. You know, I can point to several prophecies, to many prophets that have prophesied, you know, with great accuracy, going back many years, what's happening right now in America. And yet we've muzzled them, we've shut them down, we've sequestered them, we've kicked them off of conference circuits, we've ignored them. And that's grieving to me. It really is. But, you know, there's been...
As a prophet, it's very disturbing to hear this happy gospel getting preached all the time when there's so much sin and there's so much disobedience in the church. And he was mentioning prophets there. He didn't mention them by name, but you probably know them by name. They're not popular. They don't have a popular message. And for it to be grieving for him, that's what it is to a true prophet.
People this year, you know, who have been shot by police officers. And most, if not all, of these people that have been shot by police officers or killed by police officers who have become major incidents, you know, garnering national, even worldwide attention. You know, most, if not all, of these people were criminals that were living the lifestyle of criminals.
This is going to be very controversial to some people if strangers, people not of my channel, watch this, but it's interesting to hear the history of George Floyd and how he actually died, what the coroner said.
You know, just take George Floyd for a moment. I know this is going to make a lot of people upset, but I'm going to say it because I believe it, and I believe it's right to say it. George Floyd was arrested 9 different times, and for many of those offenses that were criminal and violent offenses. He was arrested and he went to prison, I believe, 9 times. One of the times that he went to prison because he held a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach while his friends, his buddies, robbed this pregnant woman, right? And the day he was arrested, he was high on fentanyl. He was high on another drug. He was being arrested for forgery. He's a man that was 6'6", a very large man. And he resisted arrest violently. So he was detained, by force, by the police officer, one being Asian, one being Hispanic, one being white. So I don't see how anybody could call that a racially, motivated incident. But the initial autopsy, you can see it for yourself, found that George Floyd didn't die of the police officer brutalizing him. The initial autopsy found that George Floyd died.
The fact that he used the word brutalizing there means that he doesn't mean that the policeman didn't show excessive force.
Of fentanyl, because fentanyl, when it's combined with a rush of adrenaline in your system, it lowers your heart rate to such a point where people die. It was the combination of the fentanyl. He had an abundance of fentanyl in his system. The combination of that and the stress that was incurred through him resisting arrest and fighting with cops that ultimately caused his heart to stop. And anybody that knows anything about fentanyl knows that too much fentanyl will make your heart stop. So, I just went and looked on one very famous minister's Instagram, and
notice he doesn't mention the minister. This is wonderful etiquette.
This minister still has a picture of George Floyd holding a Bible, on his Instagram, saying how wonderful of a Christian George Floyd was, right? I mean, how can that be anything but Jezebel, in my opinion?
And notice he says, in my opinion, which is, he's not saying it is Jezebel, he's saying he feels it's Jezebel, and that's his opinion, so don't quote him on it.
Our words no longer have meaning. Good is evil, evil is good. The lines are so blurred. I mean, if you honestly call George Floyd a hero, a martyr, instead of a criminal that ultimately died because of a lifestyle crime that he lived, it just shows how messed up our society really is, how messed up the church is right now. We've lost our ability to call evil evil and good good. We've lost our ability to clearly, with courage and conviction, speak the truth, even when it's hard, even when we have to just pick up our crosses and follow Jesus.
Okay, so I want to encourage you that Stephen Powell is a real prophet, a true prophet, who's sounding the alarm these days and is a wonderful prophet to follow. I want to encourage you to click on the link in the YouTube down there and in the description tag and follow him, because he's one true voice. I listen to every Stephen Powell video. Sorry, my computer's blurred. The camera's a bit blurred. I hope that I fixed it up a little bit. So I encourage you to follow Stephen Powell. And I just took a portion out of one of his messages. I'll put a link in the description tag of the full video. The video was about the High Court Judge Ruth that just died, and you may want to see the whole video in context. God bless.